So for the case of Ontiveros Balarque versus Toll Regulatory Board, it includes the PNCC pursuant to PD 1113 with the right, privilege, and authority to construct and operate toll facilities, toll expressways. In a series of agreements, transferred the authority to perform operations on the South Metro Manila Skyway to Skyway O&M Corporation. The legislators and the Union of PNCC opposed the said transfer. They argued that the toll operation certificate issued by the Toll Regulatory Board or TRB to SOMCO is highly irregular and that the transfer of authority is grossly advantageous to the government. As the petitioners also argued that the franchise for toll operations was exclusively vested by PD 1113 and PNCC, which exercised the powers under its franchise through PSC in accordance with the ESTOA. So the issue is whether or not the approval of the ESTOA by the DOTC Secretary is valid. The court ruled that the act by the Secretary is valid since there can be no question that the act of the Secretary is the act of the President. They also cited the doctrine of qualified political agency, which declares that save in matters on which the Constitution or the circumstances require the President to act personally, executive and administrative functions are exercised through executive departments headed by cabinet secretaries, whose acts are presumably the acts of the President, unless disapproved by the latter. This doctrine is rooted in the Constitution and the Administrative Code of 1987. So in the case at hand, the court cited the doctrine of political agency. This basically states that department secretaries are alter egos or assistants of the president, and their acts are presumed to be those of the latter unless disapproved or reprobated by him. In the case at hand, Gloria versus Court of Appeals, private respondent Dr. Bienvenido Ecasiano filed a petition for prohibition to restrain the petitioners from reassigning him to Superintendent of the Marikina Institute of Science and Technology. However, the DECS secretary or the petitioner argued that the filing of the case is improper because the same attacks an act of the President in violation of the doctrine of presidential immunity from suit. The issues are 1. Whether or not the filing of the case violates the presidential immunity from suit, and 2. Whether or not private respondent's reassignment is violative of his security of tenure. The court held that the filing of the case does not violate the presidential immunity from suit, since the petitioner's contention is untenable for simple reason that the petition is directed against petitioners and not against the president. The questioned acts are those of petitioners and not of the president. Furthermore, presidential decisions may be questioned before the courts where there is a grave abuse of discretion or that the president acted without or in excess of jurisdiction. For the second issue, the private respondent's reassignment is violative of his security of tenure, since the court upheld that the finding of the respondent court that the reassignment of petitioner to MIST appears to be indefinite. Also, in relation with the memorandum of Secretary Gloria to Fidel B. Ramos, it can thus be gleaned that the subject reassignment is more than temporary, as the private respondent has been described as fit for the reassigned job, being an expert in the field. There is nothing in the said memorandum to show that the reassignment of private respondent is temporary or would only last until a permanent replacement is found, as no period is specified or fixed, which fact evinces an intention on the part of petitioners to reassign private respondent with no definite period or duration. Such feature of the reassignment in question is definitely violative of the security of tenure of the private respondent. So in the case, it includes the concept that administrative law, civil service law, right to security of tenure, reassignment of job with no definite duration, is a violation thereof, since while a temporary transfer or assignment of personnel is permissible even without the employee's prior consent, it cannot be done when the transfer is a preliminary step toward his removal, or is a scheme to lure him away from his permanent position, or designed to indirectly terminate his service or force his resignation. Such a transfer would in effect circumvent the provision which safeguards the tenure of office of those who are in civil service. Furthermore, the court also upheld the presidential immunity from suit, This states that the President shall be immune from suit during his tenure. Thereafter, no suit whatsoever shall lie for official acts done by him or by others pursuant to his specific orders during his tenure.